Do you like, love, or hate Lonzo's new commercial?
I'm going to add a different category to the equation. I'm going to say dislike. I don't hate it. Obviously, the commercial was very, very well done, and Lonzo was poking fun at his dad, and I know that to a lot of people that it looked real funny, and it's going to come across as that, and that's fine. But when you hear the other things, it's one thing to mention my name and him and me going back and forth because you're saying that your son is better than the league MVP. That's harmless. But when you hear the other kind of things that he said that his father had actually done, assuming it's true, and we have every reason to believe that it is, then I don't think it puts LaVar Ball in the greatest light. He obviously doesn't care. He obviously saw the commercial, clearly approved of it and all of that other stuff. And Lonzo certainly meant no harm towards his father, who raised him and took care of him and loved him. And, you know, that's fine. But to a lot of folks out there, there are some folks that are not going to find that as funny. They're going to look and really dissect the words that they heard from Lonzo compared to what those other dudes, Jonathan Isaac and De'Aaron Fox and Tatum and those boys, were saying about their dads. And then you listen to what Lonzo said, and you find yourself looking at LaVar and just saying to yourself, damn, did you really do those things? And you know, can you reel it in just a bit? To me, it didn't make LaVar Ball look great.
That's why the commercial is so great, Stephen A. That's precisely why the commercial is so excellent. So often, these kinds of commercials, there's a whole kind of genre of these kinds of commercials where the athlete speaks the truth about themselves. Carmelo doesn't play defense or is a scorer, hasn't won a championship. Remember those? And you always want to like them because you want to give credit to the athlete for poking fun of themselves, for being self-aware. It's a likable characteristic. But usually they don't work. The execution is not quite there. They don't quite pull it off. And you find yourself charitably laughing at it because you like the concept even if they didn't execute. That ain't this. Boy, they executed the hell out of this one, arguing with Stephen A. Smith on First Take. And then at the end, then it cuts to the end, and fishing. I mean, it's perfect. That is so expertly done. The fact that, you're right, a lot of what Lonzo said about his dad was like, whoa, they went there? Yup, they're not afraid to go there. They are aware of the perception of the things that LaVar has done. Maybe they even feel, maybe Lonzo or maybe even LaVar feels, yeah, I probably shouldn't have done that to the high school coach. In other words, he's not perfect. He's not what everyone considers a perfect father, but he'll face it. He doesn't care what you think. Maybe he has his own judgment about things he would have done differently, but he's not worried about what you think about that. That's who they are. They're not afraid to live their lives publicly in that way. And so it not only shows a level of self-awareness with the Ball family, which is important to take the edge off the kind of obnoxiousness that some people feel about it, but it was also really well done. It was funny. I was laughing.
Well, let me say this. Number one, I didn't say the commercial wasn't well done. I thought Footlocker did a tremendous job with it. Number two, I thought, when you look at the content of the commercial, there's nothing to complain about with the commercial. Number three, I was asked how I feel about it, not whether or not LaVar Ball cares about how I feel about it. So I'm answering the question. Sure. And last but not least, I'm just going to take it here because, it affects me this way. I am a black man who is a father. I know plenty of black fathers out there who are damn good men, who are high principled, high integrity, and are committed to taking care of their families. I also know that that's not the narrative that has been put out there about black men. And so when you see a commercial like this and you hear what's coming out of Lonzo's mouth, one of the things that we don't take into consideration because we pay so much attention to the obnoxiousness of a LaVar Ball, we don't take time to step back and say, it's a good man, good father, loves his kids, believes in his kids. And there's a lot of kids out there who wish they had a father that believed in them. Absolutely. The way that LaVar Ball believes in his son. And so you could do a lot worse
than LaVar Ball for a father, absolutely.
My only point in saying all of that is to say, when you see this commercial, you might have some who find themselves looking at what Lonzo pointed out as opposed to looking at the overall goodness of this man as a father.
Stephen A.
And I don't like that.
I want to follow up with one thing, Molly, if I may.
Yeah.
I'd like to follow up one thing. A lot of good players in that commercial. Was Lonzo Ball necessarily the best player in that commercial? No, not necessarily.
Not
Who was the
necessarily.
star
Might be
of the
De'Aaron Fox.
commercial?
De'Aaron Fox.
And the reason he was the star of the commercial is because of LaVar Ball and some of the antics described by Lonzo. So not only is it showing self-awareness, which makes them, the Ball family, more likable, but the proof is in the pudding. Lonzo's the star.
Stephen A., I respect the sentiment where you're coming from, but here's where I disagree. I feel like this was somewhat manufactured and fabricated to create that juxtaposition of, my father, the sensitive moments, and then, my father berating a coach. So I don't feel like it's truly genuine from a standpoint where if they really asked Lonzo how he felt about his father, he'd have those same type of moments.
Well,
I think it was fabricated to make it funny. I think it's lighter than that. I get what you're saying with the narrative that it creates.
I don't think you do, which is why I want to respond to what you're saying.
Okay.
The bottom line is that I'm not talking about what the reality is. I'm talking about what the perception is watching the commercial. Yeah, there's a lot of millions of people that's not going to have any issue with it, and they shouldn't. And it very well may have been exactly what you said. I think Footlocker did an outstanding job. I think all of those guys on there did an outstanding job, and I get what it was like. It was a dry sense of humor that Lonzo Ball came across as. I get all of that. But as a black man who is a father, who know many, many black men who are fathers, who are good men and good fathers and committed to their families, when we look at the narrative out there about black men as fathers, it's patently false in a lot of situations, and it's something that somebody like myself and other black men may be a bit sensitive to, because we look at LaVar Ball as being a good father.